The Parker family walked toward Westminster Cathedral as the sun started to set. William Parker, a man who always worried about his work, held his wife Emma's hand. Their two children, 10-year-old Sophie and 12-year-old James, ran ahead on the path. The family had saved money for a whole year to visit London. This special evening tour of Westminster was what Emma had been most excited about. The old building looked golden in the sunset light. William was thinking about his office problems when something made him stop walking. The street lights around Westminster flickered. They went dim, then bright, then dim again. This happened 3 times in a row. "Did you see that?" William asked. He pointed at the street lamps with his free hand. Emma nodded. Her eyes were wide open. Even the children stopped running to look up at the lights. "That was weird," said James, who was always the brave one. Sophie moved closer to her parents. She did not like strange things. "Maybe it's just old wires," Emma said. She liked to find normal reasons for odd things. "This is a very old place." William was not sure. He had a funny feeling in his stomach. Not a bad feeling, but not a normal one either. Something told him this was more than just old wires. They walked to the big doors of Westminster Cathedral. A woman with a name tag was waiting for them. Her name tag said, "Ms. Bennet, Tour Guide." "Hello, Parker family," Ms. Bennet said with a smile. "Welcome to Westminster Cathedral. I see you noticed our lights. They have been doing that all week. Some people say it is just old wiring, but others think it is something more interesting." She winked at the children. Sophie moved even closer to her mother. James, however, stepped forward. "Like what?" he asked. "Like ghosts." Ms. Bennet smiled. "I never say the word ghosts on my tours. I call them historical residents. Many important people have been in this place over many years." William felt Emma's hand squeeze his. She did not believe in ghosts, but old buildings in the evening could make anyone feel nervous. They walked through the doors into Westminster. Inside, it was big and quiet. Their steps made sounds that bounced off the walls. The ceiling was so high that William had to bend his neck back to see it. Painted faces looked down at them from the walls. The lights inside were softer than the street lights. They made the place feel warm and old. As the family walked deeper into the building, following Ms. Bennet, William noticed the inside lights flicker too, just like the ones outside. The building was finished in 1903, Ms. Bennet told them. But people say the land has many stories from long before that. She lowered her voice a little. "Some workers here say they hear voices when no one is around. This usually happens when the lights flicker." Sophie grabbed her father's hand when she heard this. It was something she had not done since her last birthday, when she said she was too grown up for holding hands. William felt good that she still needed him sometimes. As they walked into the main part of the cathedral, William felt a strange feeling in his chest. It was like someone was watching him. He turned to look behind them, but there was no one there, just the empty path they had walked on. "Dad, why do you keep looking back?" James asked. "No reason," William said, but he did not believe his own words. Something was different about this place. The air felt heavy, like before a storm. And even though he was not a man who believed in strange things, he could not explain why the hairs on his arms were standing up. The lights flickered again, longer this time. In that moment, just for a second, William thought he saw someone standing in the shadows. When he looked again, the shape was gone. "Did you see that?" he whispered to Emma. "See what?" she asked. William shook his head. "Nothing. Just my eyes playing tricks." But deep down, he knew it was not just tricks. Something or someone was in Westminster with them. And as the tour moved deeper into the building, William felt sure they were not alone. Ms. Bennet led the Parker family deeper into Westminster Cathedral. They walked down a long hall with tall pillars on both sides. The ceiling was painted with pictures of angels and saints. Their steps made soft echoes that followed them like whispers. "This main hall was built to honor the people who helped make this cathedral," Ms. Bennet said. Look at the floor. Each stone has a name carved on it. William looked down. She was right. Every stone had a name and 2 dates. The dates showed when people were born and when they died. Are these people buried here? James asked. He did not seem scared at all. In fact, he seemed excited. No, Ms. Bennet said. These are just to remember them. But some say their spirits still visit this place. Sophie moved closer to her mother. Emma put her arm around the girl's shoulders. It's just stories, Sophie, Emma said softly. There's nothing to be afraid of. Just as Emma said this, the lights flickered again. This time they stayed off longer, maybe 5 seconds. In the dark, William felt a cold spot pass by him, like someone walking past. When the lights came back on, he saw that Sophie was shaking. I felt something touch my hair, Sophie whispered. It was probably just a draft, Emma said, but her voice did not sound sure. Miss Bennet watched them with interest. Many visitors feel things in this part of the cathedral, especially children. She smiled at Sophie. They say children can sense things better than grown-ups. They moved to a room with glass cases. Inside the cases were old books, clothes, and objects that belonged to important people from the past. This is Cardinal Vaughan's personal Bible, Miss Bennet said, pointing to an old book. He was the man who started building this cathedral, but he died before it was finished. Some workers say they see him walking around at night, checking to make sure everything is being taken care of. As they looked at the Bible, the glass case suddenly fogged up, like someone had breathed on it. Words appeared in the fog. Welcome, children. James gasped. Sophie grabbed her father's hand. William felt his heart beat faster. Miss Bennet stared at the case. I have never seen that happen before, she said quietly. The fog on the glass faded away, and the words disappeared. No one in the family spoke. Even Emma, who always found normal reasons for strange things, looked worried. Let's continue the tour, Miss Bennet said after a minute. Her voice sounded different now, like she was also surprised by what happened. They walked down some stairs to the lower level of the cathedral. This part was older and darker. The walls were made of rough stone, and the ceiling was lower. William had to duck his head in some places. This is the oldest part of the building, Miss Bennet explained. Before the cathedral was built, there was another church here, and before that, it was a holy place for people hundreds of years ago. The lights were fewer here, and the shadows were darker. William noticed that Emma kept looking over her shoulder, like she thought someone was following them. Dad, James whispered, tugging on William's sleeve. I keep seeing someone out of the corner of my eye. An old man with white hair. Before William could answer, they heard a sound from an empty corner. It was like someone clearing their throat. They all turned to look, but no one was there. Just the old Pites, Miss Bennet said, but she walked faster now. They entered a small round room with a stone altar in the middle. Candles lined the walls, but none were lit. As they stood there, the lights flickered once more. This time, when they came back on, all the candles were burning. Miss Bennet's face went pale. I did not light those, she whispered. A cold wind moved through the room, though there were no windows or doors except the one they came through. The candle flames bent all in the same direction, pointing toward a dark hallway ahead of them. I think, Miss Bennet said slowly, someone wants us to go that way next. Sophie looked up at her father with wide eyes. Do we have to? William looked at the dark hallway. Part of him wanted to take his family and leave. But another part, a part he did not know was inside him, felt curious. He wanted to know what was happening here. We'll stay together, William said. All of us. The Parker family followed Miss Bennet into the dark hallway. William went first, then Sophie and Emma, with James walking behind them. The only light came from Miss Bennet's small flashlight and the glow of their phones. This hall connects to the old prayer room, Miss Bennet said. Her voice sounded strange in the narrow space. Not many tourists come this way. Why not? James asked. Miss Bennet was quiet for a moment. Some guides say it feels too personal, like we are walking into someone's private space without asking. The walls of the hallway were lined with old pictures. William noticed that the eyes in the paintings seemed to follow them. William took a deep breath and turned the page of the old book. The paper felt warm under his fingers, almost alive. As the page turned, the light in the room grew brighter. Your family has been chosen because you can see what others ignore, William read aloud. The flickering lights are not broken. They are signals from those who protected this place through time. Emma moved closer to read over his shoulder. This is impossible, she whispered. How does this book know about us? William continued reading. The Parker family has a connection to Westminster that goes back many generations. Your great-grandfather, Thomas Parker, helped save this building during the Great War. William looked up in surprise. My grandfather was named Thomas, but I never knew he had anything to do with Westminster. He never told you? Miss Bennet asked. William shook his head. He died when I was very young. I barely remember him. Sophie tugged on her father's sleeve. Dad, keep reading. William looked back at the book. Thomas Parker was a night guard here in 1940. During an air raid, a bomb fell near Westminster. Thomas risked his life to put out the fire before it could spread. He saved many holy objects, including the 12 Westminster crosses. The cross around William's neck grew warmer as he read these words. For his brave act, the spirits of Westminster promised to watch over his family for generations. They have waited for his descendants to return. James looked around the room excitedly. So we have ghost guardians. That is so cool. James, Emma said sharply, this cannot be real. But her voice sounded unsure. The book had more writing on the next page. William turned to it and kept reading. The spirits have a task for you. The 12 Westminster crosses were stolen 10 years ago. Only one has been found. The spirits need your help to find the others and return them to their rightful place. Stolen. Ms. Bennet gasped. The museum records say they were lost over time, not stolen. The lights began to flicker again, but now they seemed to be making patterns. Long flashes and short flashes, like a code. I think they are trying to tell us something, Sophie said. She watched the lights carefully. Long, short, short. Long, long, short. Morse code, James said suddenly. They are using Morse code. Dad, do you know Morse code? William shook his head. No, but he looked down at the book again, and new words were appearing on the page, as if an invisible hand was writing them. The first cross is with you now. The second is hidden where water meets stone, beneath the watching eyes. What does that mean? Emma asked. Miss Bennet thought for a moment. There is a fountain in the West Garden. It has statues with eyes that seem to follow you. Then that is where we need to go, William said. He closed the book and picked it up. As soon as he did, the wall where the door had been shimmered, and the door reappeared. I am not sure this is a good idea, Emma said, looking worried. Maybe we should leave and come back with help. William looked at his wife. Who would believe us? They would think we are making up stories. He held up the cross. Besides, this was my grandfather's legacy. I want to know more. Ms. Bennet nodded. I will help you. This is the most amazing thing I have seen in all my years working here. The door swung open on its own, revealing a different hallway than the one they had come through. This one was brighter, with beautiful stained glass windows along one side. This is the West Passage, Ms. Bennet said, looking confused. But that is impossible. We were on the east side of the building. Not impossible, James said with a grin. Just magic. They stepped into the new hallway. The door closed behind them and vanished once more. There was no going back now. They had to move forward, following the clues to find the second Westminster cross. Sophie looked up at her father. Are you scared, Dad? William thought about it. He should be scared. Strange things were happening that he could not explain. But instead of fear, he felt something else. He felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. "No," he said to Sophie with a smile. "I am not scared. I am curious." With the glowing cross leading the way, the Parker family and Miss Bennet walked down the West Passage, ready to solve the mystery of the Westminster crosses. The West Passage led the Parker family and Miss Bennet to a garden inside the Westminster grounds. The garden was small but beautiful, with flowers that should not be blooming in this season. In the center was a round fountain made of gray stone. Water flowed from the mouths of 4 stone faces that looked in different directions. "These must be the watching eyes," Miss Bennet said, pointing to the stone faces. William approached the fountain. The cross around his neck glowed brighter as he got closer. The water in the fountain began to ripple, though there was no wind. "Look underneath," Sophie suggested. The clue said beneath the watching eyes. William knelt down and looked at the base of the fountain. There was writing carved into the stone, nearly hidden by moss and dirt. He brushed it away and read it aloud. "Turn the faces to the light, and what is hidden will be revealed." Turn the faces. Emma looked at the stone heads. They looked fixed in place. James walked around the fountain, studying it carefully. "Maybe not," he said. He put his hands on one of the stone faces and pushed. At first nothing happened, but then with a grinding sound, the face began to turn. "James, be careful," Emma warned. "It is okay, Mom," James said. "I think this is what we are supposed to do." William and Miss Bennet helped James turn the other stone faces. When all 4 faced east, toward where the sun would rise, they heard a clicking sound from inside the fountain. The water stopped flowing. Then the center of the fountain opened like a flower, revealing a small chamber below. Inside was another silver cross with a blue stone, exactly like the one William wore. "The second Westminster cross," Miss Bennet whispered. William reached for it, but then stopped. "Maybe you should take this one," he said to Miss Bennet. "You helped us find it." Miss Bennet shook her head. "The spirits chose your family, not me. I am just here to guide you." William picked up the second cross. As soon as he touched it, the blue stone began to glow. The water in the fountain started flowing again, but now it had a slight blue glow to it. Sophie dipped her fingers in the glowing water. "It feels warm," she said with wonder. Suddenly, the lights in the garden began to flicker. The patterns were different this time. The family washed carefully. "They are showing us the way to the next cross," James said. The flickering lights made a path leading out of the garden and back into the cathedral. The family followed, with William holding both crosses now. The light path led them to a small door that Miss Bennet had never noticed before. It was made of dark wood with iron bands, similar to the door that had led to the secret room. "This building keeps surprising me," Miss Bennet said. "I thought I knew every corner of it." William tried the door, but it was locked. He held up the 2 crosses, but nothing happened. "The book," Sophie said. "Check the book." William opened the old book he had been carrying. New words had appeared on the page. 2 found, 10 remain. The 3rd cross guards the music that speaks to heaven. Find the box that has no key. "Music that speaks to heaven," Emma repeated. "That must mean the organ." Miss Bennet nodded. "Westminster has a famous pipe organ. It is one of the largest in the country." "But what is a box with no key?" James wondered. The family made their way to the main hall where the huge pipe organ stood. It was an impressive sight, with pipes reaching almost to the ceiling. The wood was dark and polished, and the keys gleamed in the soft light. William held up the 2 crosses. They both glowed brighter as he approached the organ. "We are in the right place," he said. "Now we need to find a box with no key." They searched around the organ, looking for anything that might fit the description. Sophie walked around to the back of the organ where the large pipes stood. "Dad," she called, "I found something." The others joined her. Behind the largest pipe was a small wooden box attached to the wall. It had no keyhole, no latch, nothing that would allow it to be opened. A box with no key, William said. But how do we open it? James looked thoughtful. Maybe we do not open it. Maybe the box itself is the key. William held the two crosses near the box. As they got closer, the stones glowed brighter. When he touched the crosses to the box, they heard a musical note that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The wooden panel behind the box slid open, revealing a small space inside the wall. There, nestled in red velvet, was the third Westminster cross. As William took it, the organ began to play by itself. The music was soft and beautiful, filling the cathedral with sound that seemed to touch their hearts. 3 down, James said with excitement. 9 to go. William looked at the 3 crosses in his hands. They were all glowing now, forming a triangle of blue light. I wonder where the next one is, he said. As if in answer, the lights of Westminster flickered once more. The flickering lights led the Parker family to a part of Westminster that few visitors ever saw. Miss Bennet used her key card to open a door marked Staff Only. Behind it was a narrow staircase that went down into darkness. Where does this lead? Emma asked, peering down the stairs. To the old crypt, Miss Bennet explained. It is where important church leaders were buried long ago. Sophie grabbed her mother's hand. I do not want to go down there. William knelt beside his daughter. Remember, the spirits are helping us. They want us to find the crosses. They will not harm us. Are you sure? Sophie asked in a small voice. William looked at the 3 glowing crosses in his hand. Yes, I am sure. They descended the stairs carefully. The air grew cooler with each step. At the bottom was a long room with stone walls. Plaques with names and dates lined the walls. In the center of the room were several stone coffins, each carved with the face of the person inside. The book in William's hand felt warm. He opened it to find new words on the page. The 4th cross lies with one who spent his life in service. He watches from the corner where light meets shadow. One who spent his life in service, Miss Bennet repeated. That could be any of them. William looked around the room. The 3 crosses in his hand glowed brighter as he moved toward the far corner. There, a stone statue of a monk stood in a small alcove. Half of the statue was in shadow, while the other half was lit by a single shaft of light coming from a high window. Where light meets shadow, William said. This must be it. He examined the statue carefully. The stone monk had his hands clasped in prayer. Around his neck was a carving that looked like a cross. Look at his hands, James said. William looked closer. Between the statue's clasped hands was a small gap. It was just big enough to slide something thin inside. I think we need to put one of the crosses in there, William said. He took one of the crosses and gently pushed it into the gap between the statue's hands. At first, nothing happened. Then they heard a grinding sound as the statue began to turn slowly. Behind it was a small space in the wall. Inside was the 4th Westminster cross. As William took it, the eyes of the statue seemed to move, looking directly at him. A voice that seemed to come from the stone itself whispered, "Thank you." Sophie's eyes went wide. Did that statue just talk? I think the spirit of the monk is still here, Miss Bennet said, her voice filled with wonder. These crosses are connecting us to those who came before. William now held 4 glowing crosses. When he brought them together, they formed a perfect square of blue light. The book in his hand turned to a new page on its own. Half the distance now remains, William read. The 5th cross hides where angels sing, above the heads of those who pray. Angels sing, Emma said thoughtfully. The choir loft. Ms. Bennet nodded. Yes, the choir performs in a loft above the main altar. They left the crypt and made their way to the main cathedral again. The choir loft was a wooden balcony that overlooked the altar area. Carved angels decorated the railing, their mouths open as if in song. The family climbed the narrow stairs to the loft. Rows of wooden chairs faced a central podium where the choir director would stand. Sheet music was still open on some of the stands. Above the heads of those who pray, William repeated, looking around. "What is above us here?" James pointed to the ceiling of the loft. "Look up there." Above them was a wooden panel with stars painted on it. In the center was a circular design that looked different from the rest of the ceiling. "How do we reach that?" Emma wondered. It was at least 12 feet above them. Miss Bennet went to a small closet and returned with a long pole that had a hook on the end. "This is used to open the high windows," she explained. William took the pole and carefully hooked the circular design in the ceiling. When he pulled, the circle came loose, revealing a small compartment. Inside was the 5th Westminster cross. As he retrieved it, music began to play. But there was no choir, no organ. The sound seemed to come from the air itself. It was beautiful, like voices singing in perfect harmony. Sophie smiled, no longer afraid. "The angels are singing for us." William held the 5 crosses together. They formed a star shape now, the blue light brighter than before. "We are almost halfway there," he said. 7 more to go. The book opened to a new page. The 6th cross rests where bread becomes holy, beneath the silver dove. "The altar," Miss Bennet said at once. The main altar has a silver dove hanging above it. The lights flickered again, showing them the way forward on their mysterious quest. The main altar of Westminster Cathedral stood at the far end of the building. It was made of white marble with gold designs. Above it hung a silver dove, its wings spread wide as if in flight. The 5 crosses in William's hands glowed brighter as they approached. "The altar is sacred," Miss Bennet said. "We should be respectful." The family stood before the altar. William looked up at the silver dove, then at the altar itself. "Beneath the silver dove," he repeated. "But how do we look under the altar? It seems wrong to move it." Emma studied the altar carefully. "Maybe we do not need to move it. Look at these small doors on the front." She pointed to 2 small wooden doors built into the front of the altar. They had tiny golden handles. "Those lead to the reliquary," Miss Bennet explained. "It is where special holy items are kept." William knelt and gently opened one of the small doors. Inside was a space lined with red velvet. Several old boxes and containers were arranged neatly, but there was no Westminster cross. He tried the second door. This space was empty except for a small silver plate in the center. The plate had an outline shaped exactly like one of the crosses. "I think we need to place one of the crosses here," William said. He carefully put one of the crosses on the silver plate. It fit perfectly. There was a soft click, and the back wall of the small space slid open, revealing another compartment. Inside was the 6th Westminster cross. As William took it, the silver dove above the altar seemed to come alive for a moment. Its wings moved once, catching the light and sending rainbow colors across the walls. "Did you see that?" James asked excitedly. Miss Bennet nodded, her face full of wonder. "In all my years here, I have never seen anything like this." The 6 crosses formed a circle of blue light when William held them together. The ancient book turned to a new page. "6 are found, 6 remain," William read. "The 7th cross hides where stories are told in glass and light. Look for the shepherd with his flock." "The stained glass windows," Emma said. "Some of them tell Bible stories." "Yes," Miss Bennet agreed. "And I know which one shows a shepherd. It is in the east wing, the Good Shepherd window." They made their way to the east wing of the cathedral. Large stained glass windows lined the walls, each one telling a different story. The colors were rich and beautiful, even in the evening light. "There it is." Miss Bennet pointed to a window showing a man with sheep around him. The window glowed with blues and greens. "But how do we get across from inside a window?" Sophie asked. William approached the window. The 6 crosses he carried glowed brighter, their light reflecting in the colored glass. As he got closer, one panel of the window moved slightly, as if pushed by a breeze. But there was no wind inside the cathedral. "I think this panel opens," William said. He gently pushed on it, and it swung inward like a tiny door. Behind it was a small space, and inside was the 7th Westminster cross. When William took it, sunlight suddenly streamed through the window, even though it should have been dark outside by now. The light formed a perfect rainbow on the floor in front of them. 7 down, 5 to go, James said, counting on his fingers. The book revealed its next clue. The 8th cross guards the memories of those long gone. Find the book that lists the dead. Ms. Bennet thought for a moment. That must mean the memorial book. It lists everyone who has been buried or honored here since the cathedral was built. She led them to a side chapel where a large book sat on a wooden stand. The book was open, its pages yellowed with age. Names were written in beautiful handwriting. Page after page of people remembered. But there are hundreds of pages, Emma said. How will we find the right one? William held up the 7 crosses. They glowed and pulsed, like a heartbeat, as he moved them over the book. The light grew brighter when he reached a certain page. He stopped and looked at the page. One name stood out, as if written in darker ink than the others. Thomas Parker. My grandfather, William whispered. Beneath the name was a small note. Save the crosses from fire, 1940. And below that, in tiny writing, the 8th cross is in his keeping. William touched his grandfather's name. The page seemed to ripple under his finger, and then part of it folded back to reveal a small pocket. Inside was the 8th Westminster cross. With time running short, the Parker family moved quickly. The book gave them the next clue. The 9th cross lies where fire meets water, in the hands of the one who blesses. The baptismal font, Ms. Bennet said immediately. It has a flame design around the water basin, and the statue of a priest with his hands raised in blessing. They hurried to a corner of the cathedral where a large stone basin stood on a pedestal. The basin was filled with clear water, and around the edge were carvings of flames. Behind it was a statue of a priest with his hands raised. William held up the 8 crosses, which glowed brightly near the font. He looked closely at the statue. The hands, he said, look at how they are positioned. The statue's hands were cupped, as if holding something invisible. William held one of his crosses near the stone hands, and suddenly water from the font rose up in a small stream. It curved through the air and into the statue's hands, where it formed a perfect sphere of water that floated above the stone palms. Inside the water sphere was the 9th Westminster cross. William reached through the water to take it. The water felt warm, not wet, and when he pulled his hand out with the cross, it was completely dry. The water sphere collapsed back into the font with a soft splash. The 9 crosses formed a pattern like a blooming flower when held together. Their blue light was so bright now that it lit up the entire corner of the cathedral. The book turned to a new page. 3 remain as time grows short. The 10th cross hides where saints sleep beneath glass and gold. The relics chamber, Ms. Bennet said. It is where the remains of saints are kept in glass cases with gold frames. They rushed to a small room off the main hall. The walls were lined with glass cases, each containing bones or other objects. Golden frames surrounded each case, and small plaques told the names of the saints. There are so many, Emma said, looking around. How do we know which one? The 9 crosses in William's hands began to pulse with light. As he walked around the room, the pulses grew faster when he approached a case in the far corner. It contained what looked like a small piece of cloth. St. Thomas, James read from the plaque. He doubted until he saw proof. William held the crosses near the case. The glass front swung open on its own. Behind the cloth was a small compartment built into the wall. Inside was the 10th Westminster cross. The moment William took it, all the glass cases in the room glowed with soft light, as if greeting them. The 10 crosses formed a double star pattern, their blue light almost too bright to look at directly. William checked his watch again. It was 11:15 p.m. Only 45 minutes remained. The book revealed the next clue. The 11th cross guards the highest point, where stone birds watch over the city. The bell tower, Ms. Bennet said. It has stone gargoyles shaped like birds at each corner. But the bell tower is locked at night, Emma said. How will we get up there? As if in answer, the lights flickered in a path leading to a door they had not noticed before. The door opened as they approached. Behind it was a spiral staircase going up. They climbed as fast as they could, the steps seeming endless. Finally, they'd reached the top and stepped out onto a small platform. The night air was cool, and they could see lights of the city spreading out in all directions. At each corner of the platform was a stone gargoyle shaped like a bird with spread wings. William approached one of them. The crosses glowed brighter as he got closer. The stone bird's mouth was open, as if frozen in mid-cry. William looked inside and saw something metallic. He reached carefully into the stone mouth and pulled out the 11th Westminster cross. As he did, the stone birds seemed to move, their wings shifting slightly as if preparing to fly. The city lights below them pulsed once, like a heartbeat. The 11 crosses formed a complete circle now, their light creating a blue halo effect. The book showed them the final clue. The last cross returns to where it all began, in the heart of the first believer. Where did we start? Sophie asked. The entrance. William thought about it. No, I think it means where the cathedral began. The foundation stone. Ms. Bennet nodded. Yes, the foundation stone is in the center of the building. It was the first piece laid when construction began. They hurried back down the stairs and through the cathedral to the central hall. In the middle of the floor was a large square stone with a cross carved into it. The date 1895 was carved below the cross. William held the 11 crosses over the foundation stone. They glowed so brightly that everyone had to shield their eyes. The stone began to move, sliding to the side to reveal a small chamber below. Inside, on a velvet cushion, was the 12th Westminster cross. 1 week later, the Parker family returned to Westminster Cathedral. William had not been able to stop thinking about their strange adventure. The silver key remained in his pocket, its purpose still a mystery. Miss Bennet greeted them at the entrance. I was hoping you would come back, she said with a smile. There is someone who wants to meet you. She led them to a small office near the back of the building. An elderly man sat behind a desk, his white hair neatly combed. He stood as they entered. The Parker family, he said warmly. My name is Robert Vaughan. I am the grandson of Cardinal Vaughan, who built this cathedral. William shook his hand. It is nice to meet you, sir. But how did you know about us? Robert smiled. The spirits told me, of course. They have been watching your family for generations. Emma looked skeptical. So all of that was real. The crosses, the book, the messages and the lights. Very real, Robert said. Though few people ever see such things, your family is special. James stepped forward. But why did we have to find the crosses before midnight? Were we really going to be trapped here forever? Robert laughed. No, my boy. The deadline was to test your courage and determination. The crosses needed to know if you were worthy. The crosses needed to know. Sophie asked, how can crosses know things? The Westminster crosses are more than just metal and stone, Robert explained. They contain the spirits of 12 guardians who have watched over this place for centuries. William took the silver key from his pocket. And what is this for? Robert's eyes lit up. Ah, the key of Westminster. It is given only to those who have proven themselves worthy to know the cathedral's deepest secrets. He stood and moved to a bookshelf. Pulling out several books revealed a small keyhole in the wall behind them. Would you like to see? William looked at his family. Emma nodded, and the children were practically jumping with excitement. He put the key in the lock and turned it. The wall slid aside, revealing a hidden room beyond. Inside was a round table with 12 chairs. On the wall were portraits of 12 people, men and women from different time periods. All wore Westminster crosses around their necks. The Council of Guardians, Robert said. People who have protected Westminster and its secrets through the centuries. Your grandfather Thomas was one of them. He pointed to a portrait of a man who looked very much like William. The nameplate read Thomas Parker, Guardian 1940 to 1972. And now, William, you have been chosen to take your place among them. William was shocked. Me? But I do not know anything about being a guardian. Robert smiled. None of us did at first, but you have already proven yourself by finding the crosses. The spirits would not have chosen you if you were not capable. What about us? Sophie asked. Do we get to help too? The whole family is part of this now, Robert assured her. The Parker family will always have a connection to Westminster. Ms. Bennet, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. I have worked here for 7 years and never knew about any of this. Few do, Robert said. The cathedral has many layers. Some can be seen by anyone, others only by those with the right eyes. William thought about the flickering lights that had started their adventure. So when the lights flickered that first night, they were trying to get your attention. Robert finished. They had been waiting for you to return to your grandfather's place. Emma put her hand on William's shoulder. What does being a guardian involve? We have jobs. The children have school. It is not a full-time position, Robert laughed. Mostly you will live your normal lives. But sometimes, when Westminster needs you, the lights will flicker, and you will come. William looked at the portraits on the wall, at his grandfather's face looking back at him. He felt a strange connection to this place now, a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. I think we can manage that, he said. Robert nodded and went to a cabinet in the corner. He opened it and took out a silver cross with a blue stone. It looked just like the ones they had found in their adventure. This belonged to your grandfather, he said, handing it to William. Now it belongs to you.